Hello everybody, Achtung, welcome to video 2 here on Wine with Jimmy, looking at the wines of Germany for the WSET Level 3. So this is a wine channel dedicated to the world of wine, specifically designed to help those of you studying the wonderful world of wine to get the most from it for your studies, for that understanding and enjoyment. So this is a video, it's on Germany. It's a 6-part series on Deutschland, on Germany. The first video we went through was the introduction, climate and grape growing. This video is on German wine laws and labels. Videos 3, 4, 5, and 6 are what follow, but they're only available to those of you who subscribe up to the Wine with Jimmy e-learning platform, which is a very, very useful platform to help you with your wine knowledge and studies. You can find the information about that in the description of this video. Okay, let's get stuck into what Germany is all about. We discussed this in the last video about its location in Central to Northern Europe, and there's a map on the right-hand side with the key regions. But that's not what we're looking about today. We're going to go actually into the German wine law and labeling, so you have a good understanding of the type of terminology that you might find on the label. Now, it's not important in terms of the WSET to learn about things like table wine or Landwein in Germany. We begin really at the quality wine level, which is Qualitätswein, that you see written there just below Germany. So Qualitätswein is a category for German PDO wines. That's protected designation of origin in terms of under the European Union framework. Now, Qualitätswein must come from one of the 13 designated quality wine regions, and the wine growing area must also appear on the label. So you see we've got a label here of Schlinkhaus, and you'll see it clearly says there Riesling. And then you've got Qualitätswein, which is mentioned there underneath Riesling. And then it says Riesling again. We really want to tell you that it's Riesling. But you'll see after Qualitätswein, sometimes it's above it, below it. It is Lage, is the region that this wine comes from. Okay, so the next one up from that is Prädikatswein. So Qualitätswein is the largest category that we have with German wine production. And Prädikatswein is the next wine, which falls within Qualitätswein. But it is certainly a kind of standalone, quite high quality level that really you must have good knowledge on, because this is one that typically students will be tested on in terms of the WSET. So let's get into that a little bit more. You'll see it at the bottom there, clearly states that Prädikatswein is a category within Qualitätswein. So generally, these wines must be made from grapes with higher must weights, and that is the sugar levels that is required for other Qualitätswein. There are 6 levels of Prädikatswein, and these will go up the hierarchy in increasing must weights, sugar weights within the grapes. The level of Prädikatswein will be found on the label. Not all will label with Prädikatswein on the front label. It will say it on the back, certainly, but you will see the category of Prädikatswein. So on the example you have in the picture, it says 2009, a bit blurry there. Maybe they've had 1 or 2 too many glasses. But then it says Kabinett after that from the Rheinhessen, and the Kabinett is the grade of Prädikatswein. So once you know the grades, you will know that it's Prädikatswein. You'll be able to deduce that from the front of the label. So the wines will be made in a variety of sweetness levels. And I'm going to show you a table here to give you an idea of the PDO level, so Qualitätswein, then all of the Prädikatswein. And the best way is then to think about how that then is reflected in the wine style. So I am going from the top to the bottom here on my table, which is also what you find in your textbooks, from the lowest to the highest must weight. So it could be lowest to sweetest, as it says there on your chart. So this shows you clearly that Qualitätswein, the category we talked about first, then Prädikatswein with its 6 levels going from Kabinett, Spätlese, Auslese, Birnenauslese, Eiswein, and Trocken Birnenauslese. Okay, and you'll see the wine style on the right hand side. Qualitätswein are dry to medium sweet. So is Kabinett and Spätlese. Auslese is dry to sweet, and then the 3 at the bottom are sweet only. They're so naturally high in sugar, it's impossible to make a fully dry, high alcohol expression out of those. Now, I will go through the Prädikatswein actually in the next video. I'll go through the grape varieties, and I will go through all the Prädikatswein. Now, in terms of your examination, you do need to know that these Prädikatswein are applicable to all grape varieties coming from Germany, but you will really only be tested at this level on Riesling and Riesling Prädikatswein. So please make sure that you are comfortable talking about the grape variety Riesling and its levels of Prädikatswein. You will get that information certainly from this video and the next video. So a few other terminologies that we must sort of talk about here to give you good understanding. Producers may sometimes use specific terms to indicate the level of sweetness in their wines. So there has been a real big movement in the last sort of 10, 20, 30, 40 years even towards drier wines coming out of Germany, because generally more recent generations are drinking drier wines rather than sweeter expressions. So you'll see here from the Lage region, this is Donhof. This is a Weißburgunder or Pinot Blanc, but below that it says the word Trocken, and Trocken will be a dry wine. After that, we also have something which is called half dry, Halbtrocken. See it written in the green box at the top, but also on the label here. So you see the Kaltstadter, Saumagen, Riesling Spätlese, Halbtrocken. Now these are off-dry or medium, but some producers feel that Halbtrocken has a negative association with lower quality wines. They might use an alternative name, which is Feinherb, instead of Halbtrocken. But Feinherb is not legally defined as Halbtrocken is. Many wines also do not have any indication of sweetness on the label, but this can often be deduced by looking at the level of alcohol, because lower the alcohol, the more sugar one will find in the wine. Next, it's important to talk about some of the more recent changes within the German legal framework of labelling wines. And this is around the geographical classifications that came into play in 2021. So this hierarchy was introduced for Qualitätswein, including Prädikatswein, so our PDO wines. Now, from 21 to 26, there is a 5-year transitional period for producers to adopt this new legislation. And wines may either be labelled with a wine growing area, which is the largest, so the wine region, the regional, the village, or single vineyard. And I'm showing you this sort of circular diagram just to give you an idea about large area going down smaller, village level, to an individual Einzellagen, an individual site, which will include things like Erste Lage, Grosse Lage, including Grosse Gewächs, for example. We'll talk about that very shortly. let's talk a little bit about then the village level and single vineyard style. So for village wines, the name of the village simply appears on the label, whereas single vineyard wines can be identified by the appearance of both the village and the vineyard. So we have the example here of Peasport, and the two examples here. So you see a label on the left-hand side, which it says from Peasport, Peasporter. Okay, so it's just mentioning the village, in this case, a city. On the right-hand side, you'll see the label here of Bollig Lennert, and this is Peasporter Goldtropfen. And this is a single vineyard of Goldtropfen from the village of Peasport. So this is generally a much higher quality wine on the right-hand side. Before these new laws, some lower quality wines from regions could be labelled in a similar way to single vineyard wines. And that means that the consumer has to have extremely brilliant, in-depth and comprehensive knowledge of German labelling and viticulture and winemaking in order to deduce the labels. And of course, that wasn't the case. Many normal consumers do not have a very high level of knowledge of the intricate details of labelling and viticulture. Furthering on with the 2021 geographical indications, now wine from a single vineyard can additionally be classified as Östergewächs and Grosse Gewächs that you see written at the top of your slide. Now, I've got the example here of a Grosse Gewächs of Hollenberg in the Rheingau, which is on the left-hand side, yes, here in the small box, and been blown up on that right-hand side. So it's all of that red vineyard area. Now, you'll see the wine here as well is also from Hollenberg. So Assmannhauser is the village, and the specific vineyard is the Hollenberg, which is a Grosse Gewächs made by Kunstler. Now, Östergewächs and Grosse Gewächs must be dry and made to stricter regulations than other single vineyard wines. So let's just reiterate that. Must be dry, and they will have strict regulation behind them. The GG of Grosse Gewächs is particularly the highest. And that leads us nicely into the VDP. So the VDP is the Verband Deutsche Prädikatsweingüter, so VDP, and it's a producers association that has its own vineyard and wine classification. Now, members have classified their vineyards, which by consensus include the vast majority of best vineyard sites in the whole of Germany. They also will conform to rather strict grape growing and winemaking regulations, with the ultimate aim of focusing on the highest quality premium wines. Now, wines made by the members of the association can be identified by the symbol that you have on the top right of your screen. If you are not looking at the screen, maybe you are listening to this. This is that quite classic German eagle with a bunch of grapes sitting at its chest, with the date of inception around it, so 1910, and then VDP Prädikatsweingut just below that. So single vineyard wines can be classified as coming from a VDP Erste or VDP Grosse Lage, with the Grosse Lage representing the best sites. So the Grosse Lage is the vineyard site, and the wine will be labelled as a Grosse Gewächs. And here you are in terms of what they will look like. So dry wines made from those Grosse Lage sites are called Grosse Gewächs that you see up here. These wines are indicated by the letters GG found on the label and embossed on the bottle like you see on the right-hand side. The grape varieties permitted by the VDP will vary region to region. So yes, Riesling and Spätburgunder exceptionally frequent as GG wines, but there are others, such as Silvaner. Now, it's important to understand that the VDP of Grosse Gewächs is a trademark of the VDP, is not actually a part of the recent 2021 German wine laws. Nevertheless, it is still considered very high quality. It's just another intricate complexity that one finds in a European wine region. Well, that brings me to the conclusion of this video. Once again, if you have a comment or question, please do get in touch. You can do that below this video. The next video, video 3, is a very important section looking at the key grape varieties of Riesling and Spätburgunder, but then also going into other grape varieties and then the Prädikatswein categories, those 6 categories. If you want to watch that video along with 4, 5, and 6, you'll need to go along to the e-learning portal, that's the Wine with Jimmy e-learning platform, and sign up for a subscription to get access to a lot of exclusive video content, including a huge list of multiple choice questions, flashcards, and short written questions and exclusive video content. Well, I've been Jimmy Smith. Thank you so much for listening. I hope I can see some of you soon, wherever it may be, maybe at my wine school or wine bar or here online for a class, glass or bottle. I've been Jimmy Smith. Goodbye for now.